Bismillah. Today I'm giving a talk on the story of Musa alayhi salam and Khidr alayhi salam, which is the third story in Surah Qaf, as I'm sure you all know. And basically, the background behind this story is Musa alayhi salam. He was giving a khutbah, and someone asked him. They said to Musa alayhi salam, they said, "Who is the most knowledgeable person on earth?" And Musa alayhi salam replied to that it was himself. And he had every right to say that because he was a prophet, and obviously he wouldn't have known about anyone else there that could have been more knowledgeable than him. So he said himself. And then Jibril came down, and he said to him, obviously this is Allah's words, but obviously through Jibril. He said to him, "How could you have said something like that without knowledge, without knowing without knowing that there was anyone else? How could you have made an assumption like that?" And then Musa alayhi salam immediately says, obviously Jibril tells him that there's another servant, Khidr alayhi salam, who's more knowledgeable than Musa. So Musa alayhi salam, he requests to meet Khidr alayhi salam so he can learn from him, and he ends up eventually meeting him, and he asks Khidr alayhi salam, he asks him, "Can I accompany you on your journey, so I can learn from you?" And Khidr alayhi salam says, "Okay, that's fine, but don't ask me any questions. I will do my mission, I will do what I need to do, but don't question me, don't ask me anything, and I'll explain in good time." And Musa alayhi salam agrees. So first, they are trying to cross a river, cross the sea, cross a body of water, and they find a group of fishermen who, and they ask them, "Can we go on your ship to travel the body of water? We don't have any money. Are we okay to just go on it for free?" And the fishermen, in their kindness, reply, "Yes, fine, don't worry about it." So they get on the ship, and as they're nearing the other side, Khidr alayhi salam, he pulls out an axe and he makes a hole in the ship. And the hole is significant enough for water to start flowing in the ship, but it allows them to get to safety because it's not that big and they are close to the other side. And the fishermen are confused, they don't know what's happening. And in the commotion, Musa and Khidr alayhi salam, they both flee. And Musa, out of just confusion, he asked Khidr alayhi salam, he said, "Why did you do this? They were kind to us, they let us board their ship for free. Why did you have to damage their ship?" And Khidr alayhi salam reminds him, he says, "Did I not tell you to not ask me any questions? Don't do this again." And Musa alayhi salam, he says, "No, my bad, I forgot." And he genuinely forgot because of how confused and how surprised he was. So he says he won't ask any questions again. And then as they're walking, there's a group of children playing, and Khidr pulls out the same axe and he kills one of the children. And Musa, out of anger, out of seeing a kid just killed, an innocent child killed for what he believes this to be no reason, he questioned Khidr again. He says, "Why would you do this?" And then Khidr again replies to him, "I told you not to ask me any questions." And Musa, he says, "Okay, my bad, I'm sorry." And he puts a condition himself. He says, "Let me accompany you, but if I ask a question again, then we'll go our separate ways." And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, had Musa alayhi salam, had he not put that condition upon himself, had he not been hasty, had he been a bit calmer, he would have seen many more things by accompanying Khidr alayhi salam. And finally, they arrive at a town which was surrounded by like a wall. Most towns in that time, they would have had a wall around them for protection. And when they entered the town, they asked for hospitality. They asked for some food, water, basic things like that. And the people of the town, they were very rude. They were not hospitable at all. They eventually kind of drove them out of the town. They told them to leave. And then Musa alayhi salam, he's obviously irritated, very irritated at this point. And Khidr alayhi salam, he goes and he starts repairing the wall of the town. And once he's finished, Musa alayhi salam, he's confused. He's so surprised. He asks him, "Why would you do that? Why would you do that for free? When they treated us like this, why don't we just use this to get some food or something from them?" And Khidr alayhi salam, he tells Musa alayhi salam, he says to him, that was your final warning. You said you won't ask any questions again, but you did. So we must go our separate ways. But he says, but I will explain what I did. And in regards to the first instance of the fisherman with the ship, Khidr alayhi salam says that there was a tyrannical king who was confiscating all the usable ships in the area, not paying anything for them, just taking them as he pleases. And the fishermen, they were very poor, but because their ship was damaged, the king didn't take their ship, and the hull wasn't that big of a problem, so they could have quite easily repaired it. And now they had a ship when everyone else had theirs confiscated, so they immediately became wealthy. And the moral and kind of lesson from this story, from this, I guess, instance or event, is that Allah will preserve what you are generous with. So if they were generous through the ship, so Allah preserved that for them. If you're generous through your money, through your time, Allah will preserve those things for you. And another one is also that a smaller calamity can protect you from a bigger one, because Allah knows far more than we can ever comprehend. So for us, we may be going through a small hardship, but we don't know that this could save us from a bigger hardship later on. So the fishermen had a small inconvenience with the hull, but this saved them from losing their whole ship and any chance they have of making a livelihood for themselves. And the second event or instance about the child who Khidr alayhi salam killed. The child was a child of two very righteous people. His parents were very righteous. And Allah knew that the child would grow up, and he'd grow up to be evil, and he'd grow up to create difficulty for his parents. And so Khidr alayhi salam, he killed the child, and so Allah could bless them with a better child who would grow up to be righteous and honor his parents. And because the child died so young, this was before he could turn evil, the parents would have the beautiful memories of their young child, and they without having the pain of their child growing up and rebelling against them. And then now they would get another child who would grow up to be righteous and would honor them. And a lesson from this is that it don't really apply to us now, because we're all quite young, and I don't think any of us have children. But if you are righteous, then your children will be righteous. It's also through action as well. If you're righteous through action, and your children grow up seeing you and your wife or husband being righteous, then they'll also be more righteous as well. And another lesson from this is also that next time you lose someone, you lose something, just know that never does Allah take a blessing from you, except that if you are patient, He will give you a better blessing. Okay, and now about the third instance, about the wall that of the town Khidr alayhi salam repaired. Also, underneath the wall, there was some treasure that it was buried by. There was a very righteous man who had passed away, and he had buried that treasure for his two sons. He had left it behind for them. And had the wall, but they were still his sons were very young, and had the wall was close to collapsing. Had the wall collapsed at that time, then the townspeople, they were evil enough to drive away two strangers, not show them any hospitality. They would have stolen the money. They would not have allowed the orphans to keep the money that was rightfully theirs. So by fixing the wall, Khidr alayhi salam, when he fixed the wall, he allowed for the children. It allowed for the wall to stay for longer, so it wouldn't kind of fall until the children were old enough to defend themselves, so the townspeople couldn't take their money. And the lesson from this as well is you could also see in the way that the mother of the children, she would have been making dua to Allah every night. She would have been saying, Allah, where's the money? Allah, help us with the money, help us financially. But if Allah was to accept her dua, then and they were to find the money, the townspeople would take it. But by delaying the acceptance of the dua, it was better for her and her children, because they would have been old enough to the point where they could protect themselves for the money. And we can also learn from this that the father was a righteous man, and he died an early death, but because of his righteousness, Allah protected his children. Allah will take care of his children. He took care of the finances. So overall, the lessons we can learn from this is that having a good relationship with Allah, when you have a good relationship with Allah, any problem you have, it can only be a test. For a believer, there is no punishment. There's only, I guess you could say, tests. So no matter what difficulty you're going through, just have faith that this is not a punishment. This is only a test, and if I'm patient and have faith in Allah, Allah will reward me something better in this world and in the akhira as well. Anything, and also any difficulty you go through that brings you closer to Allah, it is a blessing, no matter the cost. So even if you lose everything you have, if it brings you closer to Allah, it's worth it, because that relationship with Allah is priceless. It's worth more than any material possessions you can have. And yeah, I guess that's the end of kind of the obviously the story, the narrative, and just some of the morals there. And I also wanted to about Khidr alayhi salam. I just wanted to maybe elaborate a bit about him. He was most likely a prophet. Most of the scholars believe he was a prophet, and he was sent to a land that we do not know of. And Khidr alayhi salam, Khidr is not actually his name. We don't know his name. Khidr is a title. Khidr means green, because the Prophet ﷺ said that wherever Khidr traveled, there would be green. So we could take that in two ways. One, wherever he went, there was like green plants, grass, everything coming out from there. We could also say maybe wherever he traveled, he spread knowledge, because he spread knowledge to Musa alayhi salam, and then now we're learning from that now. So through him, we are learning these morals and these lessons about having faith in Allah, putting your trust in Allah. And also, there's a lot of myths about Khidr alayhi salam, that apparently he's like immortal and he's supernatural, but these aren't true. They have no basis. And yeah, that's about it actually. So yeah, Jazakallah to everyone for attending this talk. I hope we've all learned something from it. The most important lesson being, if you're ever afflicted with a hardship, put your trust in Allah, have faith in Allah's plan, and inshallah everything will be fine, and Allah will reward you with better than anything you lose. So yeah, Jazakallah to everyone for attending.